Hello, everyone. This is Sara Stasko. I am the Assistant Director for Graduate School and Pre-Health Advising at Denison. I work in the Knowlton Center for Career Exploration. Today, we're going to be talking about an exciting but sometimes overwhelming topic, applying to graduate school. So today, we're going to be looking at a variety of different things. So first, we're going to be talking about why grad school. This is a huge decision and you have to be thinking intentionally about it. We're going to be talking about the different factors there. Next, we're going to dive into, should you be thinking about a master's or should you be thinking about a PhD? We're going to briefly go over application components, paying particular attention to the personal statement and the GRE. Next, we're going to be discussing the timeline to application. And finally, how can you be a strong applicant in the grad school process? So when it comes to asking students and alumni, why are you thinking about graduate school? What are your motivations there? It comes down to two very common answers. First, an interest in the subject matter. You like school, you're good at school, you like the idea of the intellectual challenge built into grad school. That is one that we get quite a lot. What we get most, though, is the second one, needing an advanced degree in order to continue your upward mobility in your desired employment and profession. So this can be a matter of there's positions that interest you that require that you have a degree, or it could be that you want to enhance your marketability with a degree. As alumni, I have no doubt that you probably have a mixture of both of these things, but the second one is fairly common. Master's versus PhD. There are quite a few differences, some similarities, but we're going to kind of dissect what is the differences here and which one should you be thinking about. So first, master's. These are really designed to give you a solid education. So this is continued coursework in a specialized field. Most master's programs you'll see are 2 years in length. You'll take an occasional 3 years. Some programs even are accelerated and are 1 year, but the vast majority will be 2 years dedicated to a master's. Some master's programs are pipelined to PhDs, so it is possible to start a master's program, really like what you're doing, and then apply for entry into your school's PhD program. Or if you are not as strong as a candidate, because of your GPA, because of lack of research, whatever, sometimes entering a master's can make you more competitive for a PhD. Funding for masters can vary a lot. Some programs can be fully funded, but that is much more rare in masters. You'll see a lot of people using loans to pay for their master's education. So it definitely can be more limited funds-wise. PhD programs. These are really designed to give you expertise in the field. The biggest difference I would draw is master's programs, you're still very much passive. You are learning, going very in depth in the subject area, learning a ton, right? PhD programs, you're learning and then you're also producing new knowledge within the field. So you're going beyond passive intake of information into the actual active production of information in your field. They really use PhDs to train you to be in academia, either as a professor or as a full-time researcher. That's a lot of the rationale that people have in pursuing a PhD, but don't think that a PhD is not appropriate for you if you don't want to be a faculty member. There are many jobs within industry, within government, that you can be very competitive with a PhD. Most PhD programs take a minimum of 4 years, but you will see a ton of people take much longer than that. 6 years, in my opinion, is more common, even if you're going full-time. Now, here's the cherry on top. Most PhD programs do offer full scholarships and living stipends. What typically happens is you will be a teaching assistant, a TA for freshman classes, or you will be a research assistant and you'll be working in the labs. You'll be doing something that is adding value not only to yourself financially and experience-wise, but to the program. So really, really look at PhD programs that provide those kinds of incentives. There are a ton of them. There's really not a lot of good rationale for you to pay for your PhD. So how do you select your program? So, you've thought about, is grad school right for me? You've thought about, is a PhD versus a master's correct? Well, now that you've narrowed it down, let's think about how do you select your programs? This takes significant time. There are a lot of options out there and a lot of intricate details to each option. It's really important where you decide to go, and so you need to give yourself space and thinking through this. This is one of the most important criteria when you're thinking about grad school is where are you going to apply? What's a good fit? So you need to give yourself time and cast a wide net that you will then narrow. A really good place to start a wide net is gradschools.com. They have a really good search feature that can help you look at programs in your interest area, but it will be broad, right? My advice is start there, create a spreadsheet. I love Excel. I always recommend Excel to stay organized as you're looking through everything. Then you need to ask questions. Once you have a base list, no matter how big or small, that's when you need to think about, could I get to these graduate program campuses? That can't always be feasible, but it's really, really good if you can go. If you can't, then think about, can you call the school, get connected with a current student? Do any Denison alums go there? Try to get some insight into the program. One of the best connection points you have are faculty. If you talk to Denison faculty and staff, you'll be surprised how many of them very much know what programs are good for what, have mentors or friends that go to different programs. So get the advice of Denison faculty. That is key. And then as you're comparing programs, prioritize what's important to you. Faculty, if you are going to a PhD program, faculty should be the most important thing. Faculty are who are going to mentor you. They're going to make sure your dissertation gets done, and what they are working on dictates if you get published, if you get presentations. It's really important that there's a group, not one, but a group of faculty at the program that you want to attend that have interests that intersect with your interests. Funding should be important no matter if you're looking at a master's or a PhD. Funding is very important. You've got to know how much you're investing in this and what your takeaway will be based upon the careers you're considering. Mentoring, research, and experience, all of these things are very important. Think about what you need to be successful during and after a grad program, and then compare those programs side by side on those most important criteria. So here are some questions to ask yourself as you're looking at programs. First, is there job support? Where are graduates and alumni going after this grad program? Do they have the course offerings you want? Now, PhD programs are way more focused on research and producing new knowledge, but master's programs, you'll see a wide variety as far as their curriculum. Curriculum is very important for masters. This one's more of a PhD one. How active are the faculty? Are they publishing? Are they mentoring? Are they presenting at national conferences? You want to be a part of a program that is very active. Can you have experiences in your area? No matter what type of degree you're trying to get, gaining out of the classroom experience in grad school is crucial. So you want to make sure that there's room for that. This is a big one that I don't think students think about. The program's reputation can be very, very different than a university's reputation. So I'll give you an example from a student from a couple of years ago. She was getting her PhD in astrophysics. I know, right? And she had 2 offers, one from Cornell and one from University of Arizona. Now, Cornell's university reputation is phenomenal, as you know. University of Arizona's program reputation, however, they are #1 in the nation for astrophysics. And so she ended up picking Arizona over Cornell because the program reputation was exceptionally strong. They had better facilities, more faculty in her area, were publishing and producing the most innovative stuff in the country. So even though the university's reputation at Cornell was stronger, she ended up going with the program that was stronger. So think about that. That can really be counterintuitive, but really insightful when you are comparing institutions. What's it like to live there? You're going to be living there for anywhere from 2 to 6 years. And so you want to make sure that the institution, its culture, and the location are a good fit for you to thrive. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about picking your programs, let's dive into what you will need to do to apply. Personal statement, everyone's absolute favorite thing to write. We'll talk more about this in a minute. GRE, so that's the graduate records exam. We'll talk in depth about the GRE. One note, most of the time when we talk about the GRE, we are talking about the general test. That is the most commonly required. There are some programs, some chemistry PhDs, some English PhDs that require subject GREs, which are completely different. I would say you need to look very early to see what types of GRE is required by your program. Subject GREs are only offered 2 or so times a year. So if you have a program that requires it, it's pretty retro, but it still happens. You need to know that early. Transcripts, just good old Denison registrar can get those for you. Letters of recommendation. If you are applying to grad school and you've had some time off from Denison, this is huge because you need to make sure that you're staying in contact with your letter of recommendation writers. Letters of rec can be some of the most important pieces of information a grad program gets about you. If you think about it, they're being submitted by faculty in admissions processes in PhD and master's programs. Faculty are who decide if you're admitted or not. And so they very much care and value these. So you've got to make sure you're keeping up contact if you can. Supporting materials, forms, nothing too shocking there. Fees. Fees can definitely add up. You need to be making sure that you're preparing financially for what this process will mean. There's fees for the GRE, for the applications, and of course there are fees and costs if you travel for interviews. Okay, let's talk about the personal statement because this can cause a lot of anxiety. The personal statement is meant to show your most relevant accomplishments and experiences in relation to the program you're applying to. If you are applying to a PhD program in humanities, social science, anything, it should include any research experience you have. If you're applying to masters, depending on the type, it's more likely that you'll talk about experiences versus research. Just depends on the type of program, really. It is supposed to show your motivation. Why are you pursuing this degree? What is driving you? Your goals, what impact do you want to have on the world, and why is this grad program going to get you there? Do not feel like you have to be unique. You do not need to be unique. You need to be yourself. Be authentic. If you talk about an experience in an authentic way that shows reflection and being thoughtful, that's what they're looking for. Not that you've written a book at age 12 and have flown across the world in a paper airplane. I don't know. Just be authentic. Be positive. Everything, even if you're talking about challenge in a personal statement, has to be with a positive lens. You would be surprised how often students don't customize personal statements to different grad schools. Most of them will have a very similar prompt, but some will throw in unique prompts such as, what is professionalism and what does it mean in the context of a graduate student experience? That's a very different personal statement. Most personal statement prompts will say, why are you interested in this program and what has prepared you to be successful? That's the typical thing you'll be answering, but you've got to make sure that that's what your programs want every time. Oh my goodness, proofread. So many admissions representatives have told me that if they see an error in a PhD statement, they will throw that application right out the window. So make sure that you proofread. It should definitely be reviewed by at least 2 people. Here at the Knowlton Center, we are happy to review your statement. So by all means, please let us do that for you. But think about faculty, a friend you know that's a good writer. You definitely need at least 2 sets of eyes before you submit. Most people go through 5 to 6 drafts. So this should be one of the first things you begin on your way to grad school. The GRE, so most programs will require the GRE, whether master's or PhD. It is offered pretty much every day of the year, with some, of course, holidays and such, not so much, but very frequently. It's about a 4-hour test. There's verbal, quantitative, and analytical writing. Those are the 3 sections. Verbal is very vocab plug-in. Quantitative is retro. They basically have algebra, trig, not even calculus on there. Analytical writing, they give you prompts to respond to. About $200 to take this test. Average score, you'll see most students hit about the 150. So how do you study for the GRE? In my opinion, the first step you have to take is to set a goal score. This should be based upon a couple of things. Your goal score should be based upon your strengths and weaknesses. Are you naturally better at math or reading? And then the program emphasis. Of course, if you are applying to a math program or a data analytics program, as you can imagine, the quantitative section will be extremely important. And so when you're thinking about where you want to target your time, you need to study smart and invest in the sections that make the most sense based upon your strengths and the programs you want to apply to. The best study option for you varies. Most Denisonians I see take 2, maybe 3 months to study for the GRE. It's not as content heavy as a lot of standardized tests. There's a lot of really cheap resources out there, including books, including ETS, which is who creates the GRE. They even provide 2 free practice tests on their website. You definitely should do the practice tests. You absolutely should debrief the practice tests, and those tests should be taken in real conditions so you get used to the pacing of it. Good. Timeline. Now, this can vary, but this is a starting timeline for you to think through. So May, the year before you hope to matriculate. So 1 full year in advance, basically. That's the latest you should start researching schools. It's where you should start taking a practice entrance exam for the GRE. That will help you decide the length and intensity and focus of your study. June, work on the areas of the test that need improvement based upon your programs. Sign up for a test prep course if needed. You do not have to take a test prep course. That's only if you know that you cannot study effectively without that support. There are, of course, financial implications to doing a test prep course. Wrap up researching schools. By June, you should know exactly where you're going to apply so you can plan appropriately. August, begin your statement of purpose. September, register for the GRE. Some people take it earlier, just depending on your study plan. October, your personal statement should have gone through several drafts and you should now be done. Your list of schools should be finalized. You should have gotten feedback from faculty. That should all be squared away. October, you request your official transcripts. You want to give them plenty of time to get to their destinations. Contact recommenders, start verifying that they will write you letters of recommendation. Campus visits, again, if possible. November, make sure all of your application materials are starting to come together. Take the GRE, again, earlier is fantastic, but it only takes 10 days to get your official score in. December, everything should be submitted. Make sure that your letters of recommendation have made their destination. You've given them plenty of time to write by that time. January, you want to make sure that the FAFSA is submitted. You still need to submit the FAFSA for graduate school. You can absolutely submit it earlier. As you probably know, it opens in October, but fall is going to be heavily invested in applications. Look for funding options or check how funding works with your grad schools. Again, February and March is going to be a lot of waiting, hoping, wishing, praying, and maybe some campus visits if you can swing them. And then by April, you'll accept or decline offers. Interviewing happens at some grad schools, but not all. So don't be surprised either way. So what makes a strong application? Your academic record, absolutely, is the most important factor in getting you into a grad program. Not only should you be successful, but the courses should be rigorous and challenging and show that you're able to handle that as well. A good performance on the GRE is really helpful, especially if you don't have a GPA that's as high as you would like. For most grad programs, a 3.5 or better is really what they're looking for. Of course, you'll see some variety, but that's a general kind of standard to think about. If you have a super solid GPA, don't tear yourself up too much about the GRE score. As long as you're above the 50th percentile in all three sections, you're doing a pretty good job. Personalized and persuasive letters of recommendation. We already talked about how important those are to the faculty members on the review committee. I put unique, but I wish I would have said relevant. So experiences and qualifications that fit the program. That's what's most important. There has to be a fit between your experiences, your motivation, your goals, and the program. That also same goes with work experience in the field. If you've been out of Denison for a while and have work experience, that can show a wide variety of really good qualities. Resumes. Make sure you've updated it. Make sure the format is clean. If you are applying to PhD programs, it's also very relevant to submit a CV, which has more of an academic focus and less of a length requirement. Well, that is all for today. I hope that you took something away. By all means, I am open to questions. I'm open to review your documents. Anything you need as you're thinking about grad school, I'm happy to have you email me. I'm also happy if you email me to set up a phone appointment to chat more about this. So please keep in contact. Let us know how we can help.